So we're back. This video is actually on time, so I'm pretty proud of myself with that. Didn't wait 2 weeks to make this one. But I wanted to go ahead and structure this one in slightly a different way. So what you have here is kind of, I guess, my highlight reel. So my best lifts from the week, and I'll kind of give you some feedback on them, and then we'll kind of move into a more informational portion of the video. So the first clip you just saw was, I want to say 562 for a triple. That was meant to be a set of 5, but I just wasn't feeling on that day, and so one of the things that I've learned is just to back off when you need to. It's especially important when you use RPE-based training like I do. It's just knowing your body and knowing when you need to make those adjustments as necessary. And so that's actually what you're seeing right here, is me taking some weight off the bar. I wouldn't say this is something that I do pretty often, just like take weight off in the middle of the set, but I've actually been having a lot of issues with my deadlift recently. I think the main reason behind that is just because I'm putting so much mental pressure on myself to get that unofficial world record in July. And really, to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. If I pull 832, no, that's not the right. It's like 820, I want to say. 367.5, whatever that is in pounds. I think around 830-ish. I definitely should be capable of doing it, and I definitely know that I have the strength based on my rep work. Traditionally, my reps have always been significantly lower than where my full strength is at. So really, I'm just struggling with that mental aspect of things right now, and so on this day I just had to make adjustments as needed. Right now I'm actually in the process of deloading, so this will be the week after this video. So I will have to come up with something different to make for next week's video. But for the most part, just trying to get back on the horse with my deadlift, trying to figure things out and kind of just get back to where I was. And really, I think the biggest thing with that is just going to be taking away some of this intensity. So I actually added in, changed my pause day to a beltless deadlift day. I think this is going to give me the ability to just keep those weights a lot lighter and make sure that I'm practicing near perfect technique without hindering my recovery as much as I have been. And so the amount of strapped work I've had to be doing just because my hands are so fatigued, I think is really preventative of me pushing my deadlift as much as I should be, and really getting to that next level. I think other than the deadlift issues, everything else went pretty good. I was able to cap off this week and this block by hitting a 270, 595 squat at RP 7.5. I was able to hit a 165 bench after training biceps the day previously, and then I later hit a 170 bench in the next week at a similar RPE, and a 733 deadlift, which actually didn't move too bad considering everything. I think that was a true RPE 8. So moving on to the informational portion of the video, I guess I really wanted to address something. I guess it's a more common trend that I've been seeing popping up lately. And it's kind of the idea that people that are progressing, people that are getting to the next level, are getting there a lot faster because they're either taking drugs, they don't have a lot going on, or they just have ridiculous genetics ability. And I really wanted to address this because, I'll be honest, it pisses me off. As someone that has worked relentlessly for the past 6 years, whenever people criticize you by saying that, you have taken a shortcut to get to where you are, it's obviously hugely offensive, because I've had to work for every single pound that I have in my total, right? So I think that if you genuinely believe that the only way to progress is by these means, you're probably delusional. Obviously progress is individualized and it's dependent on a lot of things, but there are plenty of people that work full time or have kids or do a number of things and still are able to make progress. I work with several different people, but one of the ones that comes to mind is one of my first clients. He actually works in the airport. He works on engineering planes. So obviously it's a very strenuous and labor-intensive job, and he works a lot of weird hours, works nights, trains at different times every single day. He's just not able to have a consistent schedule. And paired with that, he actually is living in 2 different places. So he's consistently flying back and forth to see his family and spend time with them. But at the same time, he's making tremendous progress week after week. It's because powerlifting matters to him. He invests himself in the process, in the journey. He's disciplined and motivated to continually get the work done, despite how difficult it is. For me, when I first started lifting, I squatted about 90 pounds, I benched 70 pounds, I want to say, and I deadlifted about 365 the first time I tested it. I don't think those numbers are completely accurate, but I have no record of that, so I'm going with that. I wouldn't say that I'm genetically gifted for powerlifting. I mean, I'm 6'7". You could say that's an advantage for deadlifting, but if you see the way that I deadlift, it's not what you would traditionally say is efficient. It's efficient for me, and I work around my limitations inside, a conventional bar and all those types of things. I've never taken drugs. I've been drug tested twice. I don't know if that means anything, but I've never taken drugs. And my best numbers so far is 6'11", 386, and 777, all of which I promise you I'll destroy in July. But, obviously there's a clear bias towards my deadlift, but I've still consistently made an average of about 250 pounds a year of progress, which is pretty ridiculous. That works out at about 20 pounds a month. And then if you exclude the period of time for which I've been injured or unable to lift completely, which I estimate to be about a year within that 6-year period, that dramatically increases that. You're looking at about 30 pounds a month on average, which is ridiculous. And at some point during this time, I've been working anywhere from 90 to 110 hours a week, doing different things, especially while I was a student at USF. I was working 20 hours a week. I was a full-time student, and I was heavily involved on campus, as well as training and doing multiple different things. So I would estimate, I was working anywhere up to 100 hours a week, and waking up at different times during the night because of my duty schedule, making sure that everyone was safe in the building. I could be waking up at 3 a.m. dealing with a crisis situation, going back to bed with extremely high cortisol levels, and then waking up at 5 a.m. to go and train, without eating, and then coming back and eating and force feeding myself to make sure that I got my calories in. You definitely wouldn't say that that was an optimal situation, but that's some of the period of time that I made the most progress. In fact, the first Raw Nationals that I competed in, that's exactly what I was doing. I was working full time, and I didn't even think of that as a factor that prevented my progress. The reality of the situation is that you make time for the things that are important to you. If you have a family, you're going to make time to spend time with them. If that's something that's important to you, you're going to make the time to do it. If it means you have to sacrifice other things, if it means you can't play Xbox, or if it means you can't go to a bar, or you can't go hang out with your friends, then that's a sad sacrifice, but it's something that you have to choose to get rid of in order to make that other thing a priority. There's only so many things you can prioritize in your life, and if you want lifting to be one of those, I'm not saying that it has to be one of those, but if you want it to be one of those and you value your progression, then it's important that you realize you're going to have to make sacrifices to get to that point. Do I really enjoy eating a ton of calories every day? Yes and no, but I don't get to eat everything that I want to eat all the time, Like, a lot of my meals are extremely boring, and they're just a necessity to keep me at this level. It's very, very hard for me to gain weight, so I have to make sure that I eat enough on a daily basis. And so I would say that discipline is obviously the most important factor. Secondary to this would also be motivation. I think if you consistently find your motivation from outside sources, it's never going to allow you to get to the top of anything, right? Because there's days that I go in the gym, this week would be a perfect example of that, and I really just don't want to lift, There was days this week that I didn't want to deadlift at all, just because I felt so tired, and my deadlift has been sucking for the past couple of weeks, and so really just getting through that mental block has been very tough for me. But I tell myself, I affirm with myself that I am good enough, and that my deadlift is strong, and that my deadlift isn't necessarily reflected by the number that I hit on that day, right? If I walk in the gym tomorrow and I only deadlift 600 pounds, does that mean that I can only deadlift 600 pounds? Probably not, right? Like, it's just what I can do on that day, which isn't necessarily a true reflection of what I'm capable of doing at any given point, right? You have to prepare to be strong. You have to prepare to be strong lifting one rep, right? Like, that's the whole process of peaking. And so, you can be very hard on yourself at different points of your training just because you're not able to demonstrate your strength. But just know that it doesn't necessarily matter on that day. And so I would say that my intrinsic motivation, my goal to be the best in the world at my weight class in the sport that I'm doing, is something that drives me. And I would say that this really just becomes from within. I've always wanted to be the best at everything that I do. And that applies doubly for powerlifting. Like I'm really invested at being the best competitor that I can be and being the best coach that I can be, and that's why I'm trying to focus more on growing those aspects of my life. But I do know too that comes at the sacrifice of other things, and I would say that those sacrifices are what motivates me more. I know that, in the past several years I've skipped out on so many different things because powerlifting is more important to me. Constantly saving up to make sure I have money for meets and things like that, spending money on equipment, not even just from a financial sense, but like a time sense, It makes it difficult for me to fit in my full-time job at the same time because I'm at the gym, working so hard and pushing myself. And then when I get home, I'm not necessarily motivated to do that work because I'm just so tired from the gym. But I have to tell myself that this is a part of the process and this is a part of the thing that I want to do. And then I would say thirdly, probably the biggest thing is smart training. And I would say that I'm as guilty as anyone of pushing my body at times when I shouldn't have pushed my body. That led me to have severe sciatica, SI pain, rotator cuff issues that prevented my bench from progressing for almost 2 years. But I would say that, as I mentioned, that has impacted my training for a total time period of a year. But generally realizing that and reconciling those incidents to make my training more efficient and more effective for me has really helped me to surpass these issues and thrive despite them. I think that it's allowed me to actually become a more well-rounded lifter and a coach because I understand those factors that lead into injury and why they matter. And really, I'm just trying to learn from them and implement them in a positive way in my training going forward. But I think there's countless examples. I actually go over this in full detail in my most recent blog post. But some quick examples would be like Taylor Atwood. He works in New York City in finance, works probably over 100 hours a week during some periods of the year. Eli Burks works as a hospital manager, and I know for a fact he doesn't sleep. He's always posting about that. And then Blaine Sumner works in some cold part of the country as an engineer. But he's always working and always traveling. Yeah, he just makes time for it because it's important. And none of these athletes take steroids, and I wouldn't say that any of them have particular, genetic abilities that allow them to get to that level. They just want it more. They are just willing to sacrifice more, and they are just willing to be more disciplined. The amount of days I've woken up and thought, I don't want to go to the gym, but I have still gone, severely outweigh the days that I decided to actually just stay in bed, right? Maybe I can think of 3 in the past 5 years when I just stayed in bed. I mean, talking about it, that sounds pretty ridiculous that this is so important to me that I literally won't skip a single day, even when I'm sick. I'm not saying that that's what you need to do, but I'm saying that's a part of the process. You just have to want it that bad, that despite whatever happens to you, you're still going to make your best effort to get there. And that's really all you can do, is make your best effort. Sacrifice the things that you can afford to sacrifice, and just be willing to do what you need to do to get to the next level. So I would just ask people to not rush to judgment about people. I mean, sure, there's people that are taking stuff, but the reality is that's not the reason why they're progressing more than you. The reason why is because they're working harder. They're doing more, and they're more disciplined in their journey. Take a look at yourself and ask yourself if you're doing everything you can to be successful. I ask myself this question literally every day, and the answer is always no. I can always be doing more, and maybe one day in my distant future I will say yes, but I severely doubt that because I know that I can always do more to make myself better in every single way. There's always time that you're wasting in the day. Think about what you did yesterday. Did you spend an hour or 2 hours watching Netflix? Even if you went to the gym, that's more time that you could have spent in the gym. That's more time that you could have spent optimizing your training, or planning your training, or eating more, or doing any number of things that can impact and enhance your progress. You just have to be willing to sacrifice some things, and you just have to be willing to be disciplined. You have to earn the right to complain about not progressing. I think that's the biggest thing. It frustrates me when people say they can't progress. Have you literally tried everything that you can to progress? Have you got a coach? Have you optimized your programming? Have you optimized your equipment? Have you optimized your sleep? Have you optimized your food? Have you optimized everything that you can to make yourself the best? And the answer for most people 9 times out of 10 is no. The reality is being successful in any field is difficult. Being good at anything is very, very difficult, and being strong is no exception to that. It is very difficult to continue to progress, especially as you get to a high level of the sport. And I really just credit my own success and my own progression with the willingness to do what is required to get to that next point, with the willingness to look at what I'm doing and understand that maybe what I'm doing hasn't been right this whole time. Maybe I can do something completely different. You know, during this whole process, I've always, except for maybe a 6-month period, done my own programming. And the thing that I found is that sometimes you just need to make a change. Sometimes things just need to be different. And whether this is a discussion that you need to have with your coach, or whether you need to look at what you're doing and realize that maybe it's flawed in some way, you just need to understand that you need to do everything that you can do. And things need to change for you to get better if you're not currently getting better. But regardless of all that, I'll be back next week, and I'm going to continue to push myself and be disciplined with these videos to make sure that I'm providing content, and valuable content at that. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and click those links in the description below. I will see you next week.